Matt Cardona, formerly known as Zack Ryder, has now made his AEW debut. What's up, Maniacs? My name is Mex. I'm a wrestling fan, a wrestling enthusiast, a WrestleManiac, if you will. And today we are discussing AEW. We had debuts on top of debuts on top of debuts this week, guys. It was a really good show and really interesting to see the characters that have turned up at AEW. So if you want to find out who it was, stay tuned. Right here at WrestleManiac UK, I discuss everything that is WWE and AEW. So if this sounds like the place for you, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notify bell so you get notified every time I drop a new video. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's get into the review. So I'm jumping straight to the debuts, guys. This was big news. One of them we knew already was going to happen this week, and that was Warhorse. He was taking on Cody for the TNT Championship this week. I didn't know anything about Warhorse before they announced this. Nothing. I've never heard of this guy before. However, I can see why people like him. I can see his intensity came across really well. He's a very good wrestler as well. But I really do like the opportunity these indie superstars are getting to show their ability on TV, which is really important, you know, for their development and for cultivating the industry. At times, I do think people on the AEW roster, are they not getting an opportunity? And these indie guys are. But all in all, it's putting a spotlight on the product and making it prosper. Throughout the TNT Championship match, Cody continued to put in sly movements of heel tactics. In fact, I wouldn't even call it heel tactics. He was still wrestling clean, but just arrogant kind of behaviors here and there is creeping into Cody, and you can even see Arn Anderson, his coach, is not happy about it. In the end, as assumed, Cody did retain his championship. He had been working the leg of Warhorse throughout the match and won with a figure 4 leg lock just like he did last week. But soon after the match, two members of the Dark Order came out to make an attack on Cody. Warhorse came to his rescue but was soon laid out by these two members of the Dark Order, and as they turned their attention back to Cody, we saw the second major debut, and this is the one we've all been waiting for. Matt Cardona, formerly known as Zack Ryder, has now made his AEW debut, and he came to save Cody from a potential beatdown from the Dark Order. And ladies and gentlemen, this guy is massive. He looks huge. Like, I've never seen Zack Ryder so big before, and he looks so smooth, so good in the ring. I think he's always been good in the ring, let's be honest, but when you're making your debut, everything just went to plan. I think apart from the fact there probably wasn't a 5,000, 10,000 crowd there screaming his name, which he would have loved, this was a really impactful debut, and he came to Cody's rescue and looked great doing it. Next week we're gonna get Cody and Matt Cardona in a tag match taking on the Dark Order, so a little rest with Cody and the TNT Championship Open Challenge, and this should be a first good match for Matt Cardona in AEW. It'll be really interesting to see after this program where he's going to land in the card. But nevertheless, Matt Cardona, welcome to AEW. So the last debut of the night took place in a backstage segment. Vicky Guerrero and Nyla Rose were making their pick for who their partner will be for this upcoming women's tag tournament. And after Nyla Rose made her pick, she was informed that someone had picked the same color chip as her, revealing herself to be Ariane Andrews. Now, for those that aren't familiar with Ariane Andrews, she was formerly known as Cameron in WWE. Cameron that was part of the Funky Dactyls with Naomi. I was very excited to see her. I was just getting back into wrestling when Cameron was basically fired from WWE. A lot of people have said online in their videos and stuff like that she wasn't a great wrestler. So years on, I think this is probably the first major action she's going to have been in since leaving WWE. But hopefully she's come a long way since then, and I'm quite excited to see her. She looks in great shape, so hopefully her and Nyla Rose can carve something like a destructive path through this tag team tournament. So we're going to head back to the beginning of the matches on the night, but before we do so, guys, if you're enjoying this review, please make sure you leave a thumbs up, give us a like. It does great things for the channel, and I thoroughly appreciate it. To open the show, we had Jurassic Express teaming with Best Friends to take on the Inner Circle. Now, for a match that I thought would be a really fun-paced match, it was a bit slow. Like, To be honest, the most entertaining part of the match for myself was Luchasaurus trying to put on his mask. It slid around his face and looked like it was going to come off, and he grabbed it every time and made sure, you know, he remained masked. But yeah, that was probably the most entertaining bit of the match for me personally. It came down to a Matt Hardy interference, which the referee saw, and I'm not sure why she didn't disqualify the team of Jurassic Express and Best Friends, but Matt Hardy pushed Sammy Guevara off the top rope. He was then pinned by Luchasaurus, and Best Friends and Jurassic Express got the win here. And I think next week we're going to get Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy. The tag team championships were on the line. Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page took on Stu Grayson and Evil Uno of the Dark Order. The Dark Order guys got a lot of offense in, especially on Hangman Adam Page, but despite all of this, they still fell short, and Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega retained their championships. Again, I would say after the match was more interesting than the actual match itself, where Mr. Brody Lee was basically summoning an attack on Adam Page and Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks that had joined them in the ring after the match. And just as it looked like this attack was about to take place, FTR run out with an ice cooler, dump it all over Brody Lee, enter the ring and take on all the Dark Order guys that were coming to make the attack. They all then retreat, and the Elite guys and FTR stand tall in the ring. And next week we are getting a massive 6-man tag, FTR and the Elite versus the Dark Order. I'm really enjoying this kind of back road friendship routes FTR are taking. Although they want the tag team championships and although they want to take on Young Bucks, they're being really diplomatic in the way they angle themselves. It's not the typical wear heels or going after you guys sort of thing. It's like they're keeping their enemies close. They're really good friends with Adam Page, which is going to cause conflict with Kenny Omega. We can all see that. But I'm really enjoying the approach that they're taking. Next, the AEW Women's Champion was in action. She took on Diamante. Shida looked really good in this match. And for once, let me just say that, because I just don't feel her as a good women's champion. The last few women's champions just haven't really come across as champions. They all seem really passive, if that makes sense. They're not really doing much. They're just kind of going with the wind and where it takes them. Shida did get the win here, but to be honest, I'm a bit looking past this at this stage, and I'm very eager for the return of Britt Baker. They need to put the belt on someone, inject some personality and character into the women's championship, and hopefully we get some good matches with it, and that maybe brings the whole division to light. In a very interesting segment, we had MJF come out as a presidential candidate, so to speak, and he took to the ring and basically called out Jon Moxley and said, look, you're getting all the opportunities because you were a big star from a previous place, but here I am AEW. And it was a really impassioned speech. At times, if you were watching this, you would forget that this guy is actually a heel, and a nasty one at that. Like, it was a perfectly delivered promo stating why he should be the #1 contender with some really good and interesting points. So he's called out Jon Moxley for an AEW championship shot at All Out in September, and I guess we're going to see Jon Moxley accept. He's not one to turn down a challenge. This is going to be a really interesting match. I'd think if this match happens, Jon Moxley does retain, but MJF will give him a really good match. Unfortunately, it will be a loss on his win-loss record, but I'm interested in this program nonetheless. In the main event, we had Brian Cage and Ricky Starks take on Jon Moxley and Darby Allin. Before the match began, we had Taz, Ricky Starks and Brian Cage in the entrance area. Taz delivering a promo only like Taz can, talking up Brian Cage, and then I thought he was going to do the same for Ricky Starks, but no, he just kind of handed him the microphone and said, you know, talk yourself up sort of thing, which was really interesting. But Ricky Starks is a good talker nonetheless and delivered. Darby Allin didn't come out with his entrance music, but upon Brian Cage and Ricky Starks coming out of that entrance tunnel, Darby Allin was on top of the tunnel and dived on them, coffin drop from the top. To be honest, we got a really interesting and competitive match from all 4 competitors. This went a long way to make up for Moxley versus Cage, their title match. Darby Allin and Ricky Starks really injected some pace into this match, which kept it interesting at all times. For the finish, Jon Moxley had Brian Cage in an armbar around the rope, and Darby Allin had gone underneath the ring to reveal a skateboard that had tacks all in the back of it, no wheels, just tacks, and he jumped from the top rope onto the skateboard, onto Ricky Starks' back, tacks all in his back, blood pouring. Darby Allin turned over Ricky Starks and got the pin, and Darby Allin and Jon Moxley were your winners. Shortly after the match, however, Darby Allin wasted no time in making his intentions clear to Jon Moxley, and more or less looked like he was laying out some type of verbal challenge, whilst Tony Schiavone actually announced on commentary Darby Allin, the 5th place #1 contender, will actually be taking on Jon Moxley next week for the World Championship. Now, this doesn't really make sense to me. Why is the number 5 contender getting a title shot, especially before the number 1 contender? AEW mean well with these rankings for me, but it just doesn't seem to be working out. The number 1 contender is the only person that should be getting title shots. True or false? I mean, I can't be the only one that thinks that. Let me know what you guys think down below. But surely the number 1 contender is number 1 for a reason. So guys, that was my AEW review. Like I said at the top of the show, a lot of really interesting debuts. Matt Cardona, formerly known as Zack Ryder, is here. Ariane Andrews, formerly known as Cameron, is in AEW as well. And Warhorse, making his AEW debut, was unfortunate, coming up against Cody for the TNT Championship. Guys, if you enjoyed this review, please make sure you leave a thumbs up on the video. And if you're new here, welcome. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you get notified every time I drop a new video. WrestleManiac UK signing out, and I'll see you soon.